Hey y'all, welcome back to Geeks Woodshop. My name is Tyson. This week, we're gonna do something a little different. Rather than talking through a build, I'm gonna tell the story of this butcher block. This came from my parents' kitchen. This is the centerpiece of our kitchen that I grew up with and that most of my siblings grew up with. And this was in our house for a good 20 years or so. And it got taken out and upgraded. It was about to get tossed out, but my mom asked if I wanted to make anything out of it. Obviously, it fared better while it was in the kitchen. At this point, it's 30 years old, probably closer to 40, and it's gonna need some work. I'm gonna make some cutting boards out of it. Cutting boards out of a big cutting block, highly original. But I'm gonna make cutting boards, give them away to my siblings, and just kind of tell some of the stories in the background behind this piece. It's old, it's over 30 years old. My dad actually built our house when I was very young, and he had a lot of help in building it, but he did build our house. This block was ordered, it's from a Michigan maple block company. And then the side skirt, the side trim of it, was built by my art teacher. He actually built the cabinets in our house, did a little bit of carpentry and cabinet work on the side. So he helped put a little skirt around this and helped put this in. One story that my mom tells is this was the biggest surface in the kitchen, so when she was making bread, she would spread flour all over it and then use that, of course, to knead and roll and make bread when she was making a couple loaves. But what she remembers is actually what a pain it was to clean this surface. Obviously, didn't have all these cracks in it back then, but even still, it was kind of a pain to clean up this one surface. Another memory is, often if we're eating lunch or dinner or something, it would just get put out here and then everybody just comes and attacks, the kitchen. And one thing that happened a lot is we would have watermelon. And of course, ideally you have your watermelon, you cut it up into slices, everybody's grabbing a piece and going outside. But sometimes the watermelon would just get cut in half. Some of it would get cut into slices. But then a mysterious big spoonful out of the middle of the watermelon would appear, and then another, and then the whole surface is covered in sticky watermelon juice, and both halves of the watermelon have just been eaten out with spoons by people coming and going through the kitchen. Same thing would happen with those big, like 2-gallon maybe, containers of Schwan's ice cream. For those of you who remember, Schwan's ice cream, what used to be just a truck. You'd order from them and they would come monthly and deliver like frozen goods and ice cream. And so we'd have a big old thing of ice cream sitting here, and then just everybody's sitting around with spoons eating it. Of course, Christmas and Thanksgiving and other, or a Sunday roast, it just gets all put here, and then everybody sort of is working their array around. And it just was the centerpiece of the kitchen. It's where we ate, it's where we talked. I grew up in a very small town. And in a small town, if you want to go out for sports and play sports, you just can't. And so we would play sports and we'd play in a game and we'd come back and just talk about how the game went or what was going on. And we'd just sit around leaning against the counters and we're all just sort of snacking and laughing. We did grow up in a small town. My dad worked in Tucson and he was a doctor, so he would commute, but because he was a doctor in a small town, that meant we got people that would show up with some sort of cut or something, and my dad would stitch them up. One memory is, though, my younger brother, he and I shared a room for a while, and he was in the upper bunk, rolled out of it, and hit the dresser on the way down and cut his head open. and he's crying. I sleep through the whole thing. My sister wakes up in the next room, comes and gets my dad up in the middle of the night, and he sits him on this, stitches him up, puts him back in bed, and the next morning we wake up like, why has Alma got a bunch of stitches? Sorry, Alma, sorry. I was a bad brother. If you look at this, it's covered in nicks and cuts, and obviously the cuts on the surface come from years and years of use, but these don't come from any use. These come from us kids grabbing a knife and chipping away at the corners. And my brother, he told me later, he said, look and see if you can find any Z's for Zorro. He's like, I saw Zorro and I was like, I'm gonna be a Zorro. So supposedly on here are a few Z's for Zorro. So a lot of memories, and this is something that we all grew up with. So I wanted to try and extend the life a little bit, make some cutting boards. Of course, most of the process of that is just gonna be milling this down and gluing it back up. And that's all there is. So thanks for coming on that journey with me down memory lane. And thanks for watching. Cheers.